we're live. Pastor Ed Anderson.
And I am
And standing next to me, or sitting next to me, is my wife,
Angela Anderson.
And we are coming to you live from
Haw-
Hawaii, in the island of
Hawaii.
Hawaii. And what we're trying to do is we're completely out of sorts here because we are trying to figure out this camera situation. I think let's drop it all the way down.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
better.
Is that cool?
That's better.
Okay, so those of you who are joining us live, welcome. And here in the islands, we say aloha. It means Allah, alo, and ha. It's two words. Alo means the giver of everything, the creator, and ha, aloha, ha is the breath, so the giver of life. So when we say aloha, we give each other lays, you put it over, and it means may the creator and the giver of all life give you breath. So it's kind of a good way of saying hello and goodbye and what's up and everything is good at the same time.
There's a lot of aloha.
Yes. So anyways, we are coming to you live right now. It's actually 3 hours behind schedule. So it's 7:30 in Phoenix, Los Angeles, the West Coast. But right now it is 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon.
That's the reason for the light.
Yeah, it's light here. Sun's not going to go down until roughly around 8 o'clock. So we still have about 4 hours of light here.
Yeah.
And we just took the kids to the ocean. They surfed, they boogie board, and they snorkeled. And this is actually our last night here in Hawaii. We are headed back to Phoenix, Arizona tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And then we'll be back in Phoenix in the afternoon. So, and then we head to camp meeting in Arizona. So
we got a busy few weeks.
But we are here. So why don't you tell those who are joining us, oh, by the way, subscribe.
Yeah.
And what else do we have them do? Like.
And click the notification button. So that way you make sure you're notified every time that we have another live stream.
Yep. And I'm doing a series here in the Hawaiian Islands. It's a Hawaiian devotion on all the places that you can go on Oahu and Kauai, and a lot of the symbolism that the islands bring in connection to the Bible. But there's another reason why we're here. And why don't you tell those why we're here?
We are here because we are celebrating our anniversary. So it is our 20th anniversary this Wednesday, June 4th. So we will have been married 20 years, known each other for 21 years.
That's right.
And while many times a lot of things we share with Future of Hope is, of course, things that give us hope through the Bible and about prophecy. And but it's occasionally nice for you to get to know a little more about us.
Yeah.
So today we kind of wanted to tell you a little more about our story and who we are and how we met 21 years ago.
Now, by the way, the Gospel Lounge Hour was meant to have at least 3 different lines of what we feature. The primary line, of course, is answering difficult Bible questions, right?
Yeah.
So when questions come through, and we have a lot of questions, and that'll fill up the whole year. But the second line was personal testimonies. So we wanted to do interviews from people. Like several weeks ago, I was doing an interview with Pastor Van Bledsoe.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were interested in that because he is the ministerial director for the Arizona conference. And so what is it, what was his take on ministry, building a relationship with Jesus? So what we'd like to do is in the future have more personal testimonies from people who we get to meet and have the privilege. We met some amazing people who we reconnected with my family here in Hawaii. But the third line is to perhaps do little group sessions where we would have like a dialogue, a group discussion. We had a group of people from Guam come to Arizona. We were going to do that, but it just didn't work out. But maybe in the future we can have another group live session like that. But today is the first actual personal testimony feature, and I guess it's best to start with you and I.
Yeah.
And how we met. So it all started in 2004. So that's 21 years ago.
We'll see.
And 21 years ago, I was in my journey in life where I was just kind of like riding the wave where God wanted me to go. And God had placed me in a really unusual situation where I was kind of like Joseph in Egypt or like Daniel in Babylon, where I had um, somehow found myself in a position where I was an expert in homeland security, emergency response, and so during that time I was living in Pensacola, Florida,
Yeah.
and I was the assistant. I was the number two guy for the American Red Cross for the entire Northwest region. I was working directly with Naval Air Station Pensacola, so a lot of aviators had a lot of hurricanes come through. So I had developed an expertise in certain areas, but I was seeking to complete some education in law, and I had put out a application everywhere to get accepted into these law programs, and I was accepted in some really big programs like Columbia University in New York. I was accepted in several law programs in California, like Southwestern University School of Law, which, as you know, is where I ended up going to Southwestern University School of Law. But one of the places among the, like, I had 7 acceptance letters was Oklahoma City University. So Oklahoma, now, if you know anything about me, I'm actually I was grown and born and raised near the ocean, Redondo Beach, California. My mom is from Wahiawa, Oahu. I grew up in the Hawaiian culture. And so surfing, ocean, fishing, everything that had to do with water was like in my blood. But I got accepted in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma like has no water. I mean, there's ponds. I
And
think
there's lakes and there's rivers.
rivers and lakes, but
Yeah.
it's not like the ocean where I was used to.
Yeah.
And but I've learned to not live with regret, and it was important to me that I would explore all options. So I actually traveled for just the weekend. I went Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I was going to come back because I didn't want to spend a lot of time in Oklahoma. I just really wanted to go and just like rule it out, check it off, and say, yeah, it's not for me. But I flew in on Friday. I was in Oklahoma City, and I went through the whole. They try to in law schools. What they try to do is they try to woo you in. They try to persuade you, and they really want to convince you that that's the school for you. And so they had a banquet, and they take you through all of the library and all the teachers and all that kind of thing. And so I said, okay, cool, it's all great. They had a big reception on Saturday, and I knew that I had to fly out on Sunday, so I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna hang out in the hotel. I'm just gonna sleep that night. And my flight was at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I figured I'd just like hightail it out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm giving it in a nutshell. I'm on Sunday now, and I wake up in the morning, and I have this impression in my head. It's not like a voice, but it was like God was talking to me, and it would not bother me, and
It would not stop you.
It wouldn't stop.
I mean, it wouldn't stop. It just kept
Right, and so the impression I got was you need to go and visit a church. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't need to go to the church. I didn't want to go to anywhere. I just wanted to like hang out, pack my bags, and get on the plane and head back to Pensacola. And it just the nag wouldn't stop. So I said,
So
fine.
at some point we have to hit a timeout.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. So,
Okay, so I
at
can
this
tell where
point,
I'm
I
at.
said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get up, and I'm just going to go visit some local churches around the university.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Sunday, June the 20th, 2004.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually was a doing my master's at Oklahoma City University, and I had just completed my first year of 2 years for my master's program in musical theater. As I was there at the school and working on my degree, I was offered a position as an assistant music director at a local church. So I was working at the church, and I decided to stay the summer there at my apartment and work at the church for the summer because they had different summer programs going, and I was working with the children's choir at the time. And we had a big program coming up in July. So I decided to stay there in Oklahoma City. I'm originally from Broken Arrow, so my parents and my family were up
And Broken Arrow's near
Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it's about 2.5 hours away. But I decided, hey, I don't have anything else to do. I'm just going to stay here and work and spend time working on my craft for the summer, getting ready for my second year of law school, or not law school, Music grad school for me.
I
He
was
was
there
law
for a
school.
while.
So I was there that June 20th, and it was Father's Day, so I was supposed to go home.
Father's Day.
And I decided to not go home because I was asked to do children's sermon, and I was doing some special music stuff that day with the choir. So I was at the church. It was Wesley United Methodist Church there in Oklahoma City. So I was there on staff, and my job on the staff, I was the youngest person on staff at the church, was to talk to people and also scout out other young people that are visiting the church because a lot of the college kids are gone. So just connect with younger people that come to church. So there we are.
Yeah, so Angela is now in this church, and it's raining cats and dogs on this day.
Yeah.
Like, it rain would not stop. Now, one thing that you need to understand about the Midwest, particularly there in Oklahoma City, is there's a church, literally, I'm not even exaggerating. There's a church on every street corner.
It's called the Bible Belt for a reason.
I mean, and so, I didn't know where to go. Well, what was interesting about it was streets would be flooded, lights would be off and on. So I'm just kind of like navigating like a little mice through a maze.
Yeah.
And cones are up, and I wanted to go check out something near the school, near the law school, Oklahoma City University. And so I ended up approaching the Wesley United Methodist Church. And, I'm familiar with the Methodist and Wesleyan background because my upbringing and the denomination that I was used to derives itself from Methodist, which is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And so it's very similar. The Baptist is very similar. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to stop here. And so I ended up going into the parking lot, and I go into the church. But what I didn't realize is that it was the front of the church, where you have the pulpit. Yeah. And when you come in the parking lot, you're actually walking where
the way everybody's facing.
Where everyone is facing, and the pastor is actually preaching. So it's like, man, I parked in the wrong place. And so I had to go up this balcony. And I walked up this balcony, and there was like that whole church was crowded because it's a university church, and there's a lot of young people there. And so I ended up going up to the balcony. There was only one space left for me right in the front. And they were so nice. They said, yeah, you can sit here. So I squeezed my way through, and I sat down, and I was sitting down. They were in the song service, and I was sitting there. Now, one thing that people need to know is that I'm a musician too. So, and at that time I was doing a lot of recording for Columbia Records down out of Nashville, out of the Brentwood studios. And so I was sitting there, and I've heard a lot of voices, but I heard this voice that was so tonal. It was so rich. And I'm thinking to myself, who is singing? And I had to lean forward. I leaned forward. I looked down at the pulpit area, and I saw the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Like there was a glow around about her. And it's like, oh my goodness. And she was singing so beautifully. And at that moment, this is the part that goes a little crazy now. Now we're going down the crazy part. At that moment, in my head, I said to myself, oh my God, I think I see my wife. I said, I think I see my wife. But I was looking to see if there was a ring, and I couldn't see a ring or anything like that. So anyways, I just sat back down. I said, this is crazy. My flight is leaving literally in like 6 hours because it was already like 10:30 or 11. And I said, this is just nuts. I'll just wait till this thing is over. When after that, the service is coming close to an end, I'm just going to hightail it out. Okay, so I'm sitting there, and I heard this voice, and who was it? It was Angela.
It's me.
Yeah, see? And so I'm sitting there, and what happens next?
Well, I had finished up, I had done the children's sermon and then did a little thing at the pulpit because I had to do a reading and some singing stuff. And I had gone back up into the choir loft. So in the choir loft, it actually is up at an angle where you can see into the balconies. So we were now at like eye level. So I'm sitting there, and the preacher's starting to preach and stuff. And I'm just like looking through the congregation, seeing who all's there that day. And I saw him, this young, very handsome gentleman sitting in the corner with these like stained glass windows behind him. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, that could be my husband. That was my first thought too. And then I was like, oh, no, that's weird. Yeah, no. So I just looked back, and I'm like, that's so silly. but then my heart started racing. And then I kept like glancing over at him
Okay,
little
stop
by
there,
little.
Stop there for a second. Okay, so here's what happens here. I'm sitting there, and Angela moves up, and she's sitting literally at eye level because I'm in the balcony. Now she's at the balcony where the choir is, and we're looking right at each other. We're literally like within like maybe 25, 30
It's like a
feet.
Romeo and Juliet thing, though, because I'm in a balcony over here and he's in a balcony over here.
Except I had a stained glass window behind me, and
Yeah.
all she heard was, "Whoa." Right? Okay. So here's my rule: if I look at a woman and she looks at me once, then it's a coincidence, right? But if I look at someone and they look at me twice, the same person looks at me twice, I'm thinking, oh, she's interested. But if she looks at me 3 times, then I say, oh, I got them hooked, right? So I'm sitting there, and I looked at her, and she looks at me, and I go, oh, okay, there's the first stare. And I said, okay, so I'm waiting, I'm holding it back. I'm not gonna look. I'm not. And then I look, and then she looks at me again. I go, oh, she's interested.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and
I was like, he's looking at me and I'm looking at him.
So I finally did
What
it for
is-
the 3rd time. I turned and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I go, hook.
I don't know.
And anyways, we're the sermon is now coming close to an end.
Yeah.
And in my
Church
head,
service is over.
yeah,
My head, I thought, okay, after church service, I need to find that gentleman and meet him. Right.
But for me, I was thinking, well, I have to fly to Pensacola. I don't even know. I didn't want to be there in the first place. I thought this was crazy. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to go. So before the last prayer was made, I took off.
He left.
I left. And I actually,
And I opened my eyes after the prayer and he was gone.
I
He was
disappeared.
not there.
Yeah. So while everyone was praying, I sneaked out. And here's the thing. I came down, and I was about ready to exit the church. It was still raining cats and dogs. And I had that same strong impression that said to me, Ed, if you leave right now, if you step, I had the door already open. And the voice said, if you step outside right now, you will live to regret this for the rest of your life, because you're always going to wonder who she was. And I knew that would be true. And so I said, okay, fine. I closed the door, and I turned around. Now, by this point, everyone is now leaving. So I'm having to navigate myself through all of these people coming out of the church. I felt like one of those salmon that swim against
Swimming up the stream.
up the stream. It's like people are going by me. I'm thinking to myself, this is nuts. Anyways, I finally get into the sanctuary, and I want to see if I can find you. And there she was at the front, but there was like a line of 30 guys waiting to meet her. It's like, oh no, there's no way. I am not standing in line.
I was doing the exit.
They all wanted
exit
dates.
duty.
They all wanted dates. And so I said, there's no way I'm going to stand in line. But I decided, okay, I got to at least see if she had a ring on her finger, or if she's taken or whatever. So I ended up going to the back of the line and waited my turn to meet her. Okay. So anyways, you're sitting there, and now who are all those guys who you're talking to?
I don't know. It's people just leaving the church. You shake people's hands as they leave church. It's what
So I
I
finally
was
come up.
employed, so I was just shaking hands and talking to people.
Okay, and
Yeah.
it's my turn. So
Yeah.
I finally come up, and
And I
and
was like, oh, there he is. I wonder who he is.
you know how guys always have these great one-liners. Like, they always have something like epic, something to say, like, there's a hook, whatever. For some strange reason, I could not think of anything cool to say except, hi, my name is Ed. So I put my hand out, and she like shook my
Hi,
hand.
my name is Angela.
And
I'm like, what are you doing here? Where are you from?
Yeah,
I
and I
haven't
ex-
seen you before.
and I explained I was there for the law school, and I was entering a specialized program, but
And I said, well, I'm at the same school. I'm entering my second year of grad school as a musical theater major.
yeah.
And then he said, oh, well, I'm looking at coming to school here. And I'm like, well, have you been around Oklahoma City much? And he's like, no, this is my first weekend. And so then I, in my mind, thought we should exchange numbers. So that way, when you get here, I kind of know the area, so I can help you. Like,
That was her job. That's what she was supposed to do.
I can help you get familiar with Oklahoma City and the school. You're new to
here's how
Oklahoma.
I took that. Okay, she looked at me 3 times, hooked, and now she wants to exchange numbers. So it's like, okay, things are looking up. But I'm thinking to myself, still, it's nuts. It's crazy,
Yeah.
because I wasn't going to go to Oklahoma
Yeah,
City University. So what's the point of it? So,
Right.
But anyway, something crazy came out of my mouth at that point. I said, hey, would you like to have lunch with me? So now it's 11:10, 11:15.
Yeah.
And so what does she do? She says,
Let me tell a few people, and then sure.
so
So
what does she tell?
I
Guess
didn't
what's on the
go
list?
back home for Father's Day. I decided to just stay there. And I told our pastor, our associate pastor, and the choir director, and a couple other choir members, because
There's like 5
I don't
people she
ever go
told.
out with anybody, and I definitely didn't want to go out with some gentleman that I didn't know.
And
You know. So I said, I'm going out to lunch with this guy. If you haven't heard from me by this afternoon,
if you haven't heard from me by this afternoon, call the police.
yeah,
So anyway, she said yes. So we went to
Yeah.
a Mexican restaurant,
yeah.
and we had
In Bricktown, Oklahoma City.
yeah, and we happened to drive by a botanical garden that's going to come. That has a story. So we go to
Yeah.
this Mexican restaurant, and here we are. We're talking
did. It
over
was
Mexican
great.
food, and we're just like hitting it off, and we had a lot of things in common. But here's the thing: I had determined in my life I was just going to be single. I was going to serve God. I was going to do what God needed me to do. Remember, I'm like Joseph in Egypt, or like Daniel in Babylon, and I'm sitting in this strange situation. And Angela is eating, and she takes these chip and salsa, and this restaurant we went to in Bricktown, they had cheese, and
I
so
love queso.
yeah, queso, and so she takes this chip and she brings it up and she spills the cheese right on her sweater or whatever she was wearing. I think it was like a sweatshirt.
It was a blue blouse.
Yeah, blue blouse. And normally someone would go like, "Oh my goodness, this is so horrible," and they would run to the bathroom and try to, and oh my God, I can't believe I just did that, and it was so embarrassing. But what does Andrea do? She takes a chip. And I go, excuse me, and I pointed to her. And what do? She takes the chip and goes like this and eats it. It's like, oh my goodness, this is marrying type right here. So it didn't even phase her. She just kept on talking, and so we're talking.
I did go to the bathroom after that and completely psyched myself out and splashed my face with water. But the whole day thus far had really, like, from the time that we left the church, it was like we were living in a movie.
Very surreal.
It was very surreal because I'd be like, I enjoy singing, and he's like, I sing too. And then it's like, I love to swing dance. I go to swing dancing every week, and he's like, I swing dance too. I actually bought it. And so everything was like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting because we have so many things in common. It's very odd.
So after the lunch, we are, what's next? So we decided that I said, hey, do you want to stop at that botanical garden?
I still have 3 hours till my flight.
Yeah, I still have 3 hours to my flight. Why don't we go to the Myriad Botanical Garden?
Yeah.
Right? So we went into Myriad Botanical Garden, and I actually had my camera, and I was filming, asking her, like, what do you want to do when you graduate from graduate school with your master's degree? And you said?
Oh, I wanted to, at that point, I was ready to finish up, move to New York, do auditions.
Be on Broadway.
Yeah, I'd do Broadway shows, national tours, cruise lines.
I mean,
whatever opportunities open up.
Like a level.
I was at the top of my game.
You were at the top of your
for
game. You
dancing
were
and singing and acting, and
you're actress. You're an amazing singer, and so you're ready to enter the field.
Yeah.
And you actually studied under Dr. Herendeen, who's the nation's one of the top musical theater directors, and so Angela
fantastic program we have at Oklahoma City.
His proteges, and so anyways, so she's an amazing director herself. Well, anyways, I learned all of this about her, and this is at Myriad Botanical Gardens. So after we walked through it, I got to know her. She was asking me about what I do. I told her the stuff I did for Homeland Security, for Red Cross. I told her things about my faith.
But Myriad Botanical Gardens is really where we started walking through and talking to each other about like life and goals and dreams. It was like a 2-year relationship in the matter of 3 hours.
Yeah, it was.
It was like,
yeah, God shrunk that into.
Yeah, like the Mexican place was like the first level of like, who are you?
Yeah, that.
And then Myriad Botanical Garden was like, God is working on your hearts.
Yeah.
Then
So then we end up going back to Oklahoma City. No.
No.
Okay.
We
So
went to
ended
our
up going-
favorite ice cream place. He wanted ice cream, so I said,
because we had Mexican and
let's go to Brahms ice cream. I love Brahms ice
so
cream.
we went to Brahms ice cream, and I
I got a
remember
double scoop
I got a double scoop. Do you remember what I got? I remember specifically what I got because that's
with
where.
the cappuccino chunky chocolate
Yep, and
and chocolate almond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chocolate almond. And so I ordered this ice cream. She ordered an ice cream, and I'm sitting
It was
there
very awkward because we're
And-
sitting across from each other, not
eating ice cream. And so she hands me her ice cream. She says, "Excuse me, can you hold this? I need to go to the restroom." So I'm sitting at this booth by myself at Brahms in Oklahoma City University. After all of that, I'm thinking to myself, this is nuts. This is crazy. I think I'm just going to have to just clear all of the cards on the table and let's bring closure to this because it was very surreal. So what was happening while I was sitting outside by myself?
I was in the bathroom just psyching myself out because he's leaving in a few hours and I don't even like, it was just like I was living in a movie. I kept splashing water on my face and then I come out and I'm like, okay,
So she
jump
comes
back
out.
in.
She comes out and she sits down and I hand her ice cream. And here's the first thing I say. I say, "Listen, Angela, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I'm just going to lay it all out." So I'm thinking to myself, it's time to like end this now, get slapped or whatever. And I said, "When I first saw you, I thought that you could be my wife." And I thought, okay, that's it. Because that's just nuts, right?
Right. We've known each other formally since, hi, I'm Ed,
Yeah.
for
so-
about 2.5 hours,
2.5
3
hours
hours,
we've known
maybe
each other.
max.
and I said, when I first saw you, I thought you could be my wife. And then what did you say?
I said, well, when I first saw you, I thought you could be my husband. So,
So
what
do
are we
do?
supposed to do now?
So at that moment, because now I was in completely uncharted territory.
Clearly, God was working
Yeah.
on both of us.
Right.
To have us in the day, time, place, because neither of us were looking.
Yeah, I wasn't. And so the only thing naturally that I could do was say, okay, well, I guess what we have to do is exchange numbers. And she said, you have to talk to my dad and mom. So you have to go through an interview process. I said, you too. There's a whole protocol in my family.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So we ended up, now this is the part of the story we never really tell, but there's a big segment that happened.
So then we went to Oklahoma City
That's
University
when we
after
ended up
that.
going back to Oklahoma City
Yes.
University, and we were about ready to say bye, but we still had a few hours, like
You had like 40 minutes left. And I
Yeah.
said, oh, you play music. We should go up to the
this is important.
practice room at OCU. And so, we could play the piano together.
Yeah, because she plays piano, she
Yeah.
sings. I knew, and she found out I'm a musician. So I said, let's go back to OCU, and she said, oh, let's play on the piano. So we can do some music. So I said, I got 40 minutes. Let's go, and I want to hear you sing. So she goes in, she brings me into this rehearsal room, and she picks out one song, and I couldn't believe it. The one song that you played was what?
As a deer.
As the Deer. And that particular song, I was on a writing team when I was at Sony Records working for Sparrow and Word Music. I was on this big team with Marty Nystrom and Greg Mazzarini and all these big writers. And I was the hook man on that song, helping to.
He helped write the song that I sang for him.
And I dared not tell her I was involved in that song because she would think that I was just like nuts at that point. So I just said, oh, that's really beautiful. And thinking to myself, I actually wrote that melody harmonic hook and I just left it there. And so I knew that I had to fly.
Yeah.
So we go out and I'm about ready to get in my rental car.
So he did miss one thing.
What?
Right before we went into the practice room. You wanna
I
tell
wasn't
that
going to
part?
tell that part. Okay. You want to tell that part? Okay. All right. I intentionally skipped that part because I have a lot of members of my church watching right now. Okay. Let's tell that part. Okay. We're going to lay it all out.
Well, because it's just part of our story.
Okay. That is part. So we're in the elevator and we're
They can
we
listen.
are going up to the music practice rooms and it's okay. They can stay
They
here.
can stay
So
here.
here, come on over here.
Little ones just came
Let's
out.
have everyone see. These are our two little ones. This is Caleb. Come over here, Capri. And this is our littlest Capri here. Say hi, everyone. Aloha.
Can you show us the shaka?
Show them the shaka. Yeah. You remember the story of the shaka? What was the story of the shaka? Remember the Hawaiian man? He was at the sugar mill. He lost the three fingers. And every time he would say bye, or
He would
hello.
wave.
These 3 fingers were missing.
Because he got those cut off on, I think it was at a sugar
It was at a
plantation.
sugar plantation.
He
And
had the
so
fingers cut
this
off.
is how he
In
said hi.
Oahu.
Yep. And so this is why the shaka came about.
He would say hi like this, and then all the kids started doing it back at him. And
Yeah.
that grew into
Okay,
the
so
shaka.
let's finish this. You guys go sit over
Okay,
there.
you guys go sit over there.
So, anyways, we're in this elevator. Sit. Bye bye. We're in this elevator.
A little bit.
And I thought to myself, oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna try to steal a kiss. So I came up to her. Now remember, I only knew her for like 3 hours, and I said, let me just see what would happen here. So I already told her that she was gonna be my wife. I thought, well, we might as well consummate it with a kiss, right? So I came up to her and I kissed her. And what did you do? I came up and she was like this. She did this. She did this and pushed me away. It's like
I was like, dude, I don't even know you.
I don't even know you. It's like I could be your husband, but there's no way you're kissing me. So I thought that was funny. And I thought, okay, this is a woman of integrity. She won't let anybody touch her or try to kiss her. She was definitely you had to work. I had to work, you know. But anyways, we get out to the parking
We
lot.
played music out to the parking lot.
And the only natural thing I knew to do was to give her my business card.
He gave me his business card
So I gave her
with
my
his phone number written on the back of it.
yeah, with my but I had all these photos and videos of her, but she only had my business card. And
I had no clue what he looked like after he left. I couldn't remember anything. It was like a movie.
yep. And in my culture, we give a hug. So I just gave a nice Christian hug, and I said, okay, until I'll let you know when I fly in Pensacola, and we'll keep communicating. Anyways, I ended up leaving Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that happened there, but I ended up interviewing with your dad and your mom the following Thursday. By the
Yep.
way, why don't you tell them what happened after I left?
Oh, well, after he left, it was Father's Day. So I called my dad to wish him happy Father's Day. And I just said, hi, Dad, happy Father's Day. Sorry, I couldn't make it home today. Had some things come up. And I think I met the boy I'm going to marry. And he was like, he thought it was a joke since it was Father's Day. And he was like, that's funny, Angela, And I said, oh, no, really. And he's like, what does he look like? And I'm like, well, he's short and he's got dark hair and he's tan. And I think he's some kind of Asian. And his name is Ed and he lives in Florida. He's like, how'd you meet him? And I told him, and he was like, oh, we're going to have to talk with this gentleman here. So, I have some friends whose dads are private investigators and did some research and
Her
stuff.
best friend's dad is a private investigator.
Yeah, so
And
they just
now she tells
everybody just did some research. Yeah.
she and all her friends are now doing all this research and background research on me. And I found that hilarious because now they're discovering all these articles about things I've done and emergency responses I've served on and all that kind of thing. And some of the work I did in the church. And so they discovered a lot more about me that, anyways,
Fast forward through that. He had a wonderful conversation with my mom and dad. Although
on Thursday.
On Thursday, that was Sunday. This is 4 days later. Although they kept talking about
Her dad
Mr. Ed the horse,
I was
who's
on the
buried
phone
in Oklahoma.
for an hour and a half, and an hour of that was about a horse buried called Mr. Ed. There was a movie, a
TV show. Everybody knows
Mr. Ed.
Mr. Ed on Nick
Yeah,
at
so
Night.
because my name is Ed, so he talked about this. It's like, well, I guess this interview's going well, but it worked out great. I mean,
Yeah. We ended up. We got to the point. We talked a lot over the phone, but I couldn't even remember what he looked like. I'm like, can you please send me a picture because I have no clue what you look like, and I don't remember anything except the day that felt like a dream. All my friends felt like, what in the world are you talking about? It's like a dream day. And
now by this point, I had to travel to California.
Yeah.
Because that was when
You had a celebration for life for your sister at that point, or celebration.
Well, I was there
Recovery.
because we discovered that
Yeah.
my sister had cancer.
Yeah.
And so I flew right away to California to be with my sister, and all of us went. And so she mentioned she wanted to see a picture of me. And when I received the text, I was playing guitar, and I said, well, let me just do a selfie. And I snapped a photo of myself in a tank top and playing guitar. And that's the first photo she saw of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still have that photo today.
Yeah. And she said, oh, yeah, man, you're amazing. Not just
Anyways, after you were done in California, you went home, and all of our friends thought we were all a little bit crazy. But
Yeah, there's a lot that happened. She came out. So I want to make sure that this was real.
yeah,
I ended up driving from Pensacola, Florida, up to Oklahoma just to make sure that this wasn't some fluke. And it turned. I mean, it was amazing. I met her sister, met her mom and dad in person. Had a chance
can
to
you fix that? It's going to go off the edge. Oh,
talk to her a little bit more about
go
who
help
I
your brother.
am, and it was a great visit. And then a few weeks later, she came and visited me in Pensacola, Florida, and met my brother, my sister-in-law, and they really liked her. So, anyways, moving forward,
Yeah.
we met June 20th, 2004.
My birthday on July 22nd.
Yeah,
He gave me a promise ring, so that
Yeah.
was about less than a month later.
right. So, I remember I only knew her for like 4 hours, and we had this long distance relationship where I was just talking to her on the phone.
Yeah.
With the exception of those few days that I came to Oklahoma and the few days that she came. It was just a
Yeah.
weekend down in Pensacola, Florida. Then I gave her a promise ring. Then on Thanksgiving, I got called up to New York.
Yep. It turned out he did not go to law school at Oklahoma City University.
I ended up because of 9/11 and the recovery that needed to happen in New York City. Because of my area of expertise in that area, they called me to New York City and to help develop the respite centers and develop what we were doing in Queens and Brooklyn. So I
He's working out.
I had
things
two
up there.
offices, one in Queens and one in the main American Red Cross headquarters right there near the Lincoln Center, and that's where I was living.
Yeah.
And
So he lived in New York City, and I lived in Oklahoma City,
yep,
and so we still had a long distance relationship
yep.
the whole time. And then
This is that year, Thanksgiving. I flew from New York to Tulsa, and that's when I decided to ask her to marry me. So this is only just 6 months.
yeah, so he proposed at
So June,
Thanksgiving
July,
that following
August,
year.
September, October. No, that's just 5 months.
5 months.
It
Yeah.
was 5 months.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So 1 month in, I gave you a promise ring. 5 months in, I asked you to marry me.
And then we got married.
And I was sick. I had developed laryngitis, and I wrote a song for her.
We'll have to record that one.
Yeah, and but I couldn't sing it, so I read it as a poem, and she's crying, and it was well developed proposal. And anyways, she said
I
yes,
said yes.
and we ended up getting married June. So this is exactly 1 year later.
Yep.
June 4th,
Yeah.
2005, in the very church that we
That we
first
met in.
met, in the Wesleyan United Methodist Church.
Yep.
And our our reception was in the Myriad Botanical Garden, where God opened our hearts.
Where we
to
had
each other.
our first date.
And the reason we had it there was because I had written, when I was in New York, I was writing lots of poetry and music. And I wrote a poem called Myriad Botanical Gardens about the place where God brought two hearts together in such a natural place. There's what do they call it? An atrium with
Yeah,
a
like a big,
waterfall.
yeah.
And
The only way you can have tropicalness in Oklahoma. So.
and it got published.
Yeah.
And Myriad Botanical Gardens got the publishing rights for it.
Yeah.
And so I sold the publishing rights to Myriad Botanical Gardens. And when I showed up and said, I'm the composer, the author of that poem, and I'm looking for a place to do my reception, they shut the entire botanical garden down and gave the whole botanical garden to us
for our wedding.
For our wedding. It was awesome. Just thinking about it, I get a little teary-eyed because it was so special. I mean, we had, a whole big room there, and the families can come in. Here's the crazy thing about it. At our wedding, I wanted everyone to know how much God had blessed us.
Yeah.
And we had families from both sides. People flew in from everywhere, from Florida, California, Arkansas, all throughout Oklahoma, Nebraska. But what was crazy about the wedding was we had a lot of homeless people come.
We had a lot of the people from the homeless ministry that we have.
Because your dad was doing a homeless ministry.
Yeah.
Because he's a retired pastor.
Yeah.
And we wanted them there. So they came to our wedding, and we were not only a blessing, but they became a blessing to us because they gave us some things that they did by hand. And it was so precious to us. And we just felt like that was the start.
It was a very blessed time.
A trajectory that God would put us on.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was 20 years ago.
20 years ago that we
20
met
years ago.
on June
And
20th.
it's a crazy story. I mean, it needs to be written into a movie.
Yeah, it really does. It was pretty
It was
crazy
just
that day.
crazy. It was amazing. But we're here now in Hawaii, and we just had our 20-year vow renewal.
We did a
yesterday.
vow renewal yesterday.
Yesterday was the Sabbath. So right now it's Sunday. Yesterday was the Sabbath. As the sun was setting, I had my nephew and my cousin, who's a pastor, also in the Adventist church. They did this island style, very symbolic, meaningful vow renewal for us. We were out in the town of Poipu. It's in the southern point of Kauai.
Shipwreck Beach.
Yep, and it looks out to the ocean. And behind us were the tropical rainforest mountains.
Mhm.
And we did a Hawaiian style Christian wedding, which I learned so much.
It was
done
really
in
beautiful.
Hawaiian, and we have a lot of amazing pictures.
Yep.
And
these were made for us by our nieces.
these were made by our
handmade
handmade
leis.
leis. This is a male, and then those came from the flower trees
The
here,
orchids. Yeah.
the orchids. So, but what was really amazing, I think, and we won't go through the whole thing, but there was one point of the ceremony where it talked about washing each other's hands.
Mhm.
So it used two different sources of water. One is one of the purest waters on the planet, and it takes 10 years of filtration through the water, through the mountains. And that is one part of the water. The other part of the water comes from a fresh spring that comes down from the rainforest. And they mix those two together. And what was so special about that was it was poured on our hands. We were holding each other's hands. And it was said that everything from the last 20 years is washed away. All of the regrets, all of the fights, everything. And you're starting fresh and new. It was almost like a baptism.
Yeah.
Together. And so it was so meaningful. We're standing in the circle of flowers, and then my nephew opened a coconut. The thing about the coconut, a lot of people don't understand. It's actually a sacred fruit.
Mm.
The reason for that is it has to draw water from the ground, and it brings it up through the
root system,
the root system, and through that it filters.
Yeah.
And by the time it gets to the top of the tree, it is pure. It's pure water. And then when the palm trees sway, it's doing the hula. So in other words, it's recognizing the power of the Holy Spirit and rejoicing in joy. And so the coconut was broken open, and then I served my wife the coconut or the water, and then she served me the water, symbolizing that the water is what made us. The water is what God used to create the world, and water was used to the purity of water was used to purify us in our spiritual life and also in our marriage. So we had the two elements that we really needed to have. Then there was an amazing prayer at the end. We were visited by green turtles. They came in.
And our children were there, and our family that live here on the island were there.
They all came out. It was like we had maybe about 26 of us and we have great photos, but it was good to do that together here after 20 years. And I recommend that if all who are married or thinking about getting married, making moments like that of symbolism that remind you of the miracle of how God brings people together.
Yep.
For us, God really brought us together in a great miracle.
Yeah.
So
always follow that leading. If you ever have the Holy Spirit leading you to do something, to meet someone, to talk to someone, one of those, we talk about, like, had we both not been willing and had our hearts open to where God was leading us and taking us at that time, we would not be where we are today. So it's just something you need to be aware of and be conscious of, because the Holy Spirit's working at all times in our lives.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to listen and follow and take those steps.
And we've been so blessed with our ministry. Angela is a great partner for me as I do world evangelism, the work that we do at our church. She's my music director, and God knew what he was doing when he brought us together. There is no way that we would have ever guessed that for ourselves. So we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to bring our family in now. So I want to introduce you to the blessings that God brought us. This is our youngest, Caleb, and then our youngest daughter is Capri. So this is Capri. And then we're going to bring in our firstborn son, Karsten. Come around here, son. So this is our son, Karsten. And then our firstborn daughter, our very eldest of the children, is Cadence. And so from all of us to all of you, we are going to say aloha. Ready?
Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha.
God bless everyone, and we will
God bless.
see you again next Sunday at 7:30 from Prescott, Arizona. Until then, may the good Lord bless and keep you.
When are we getting tree dice?
All right, I think we need to end this. How do you end it?